am very, very excited about this panel. First, loved every moment of the movie, every second of it. And I'm very happy to have an amazing panel. Dominique, if you can introduce yourself. I have two great designers plus Julie, so we'll see.
Hi, my name is Dominique Hankey. I am a milliner at Hive Mind Millinery.
So she makes the hat she's wearing. It's her doing it.
And I am Jason Matlow. I'm a Vancouver fashion designer.
And I'm Julie Georgia Bernard, and I'm director of the film.
Perfect. Yay! So, wow. What's your favorite moment? Just let's start with that.
I think for me, it would definitely be seeing people putting their passion into everything that they're doing, and especially when you're looking at the fabrics of any trade. You know, when you buy a dress, you think often about the dress form, or the same with a hat, and to see people having that much passion about the raw materials is, you know, it brings it so much more to life for me.
Jason, what's your favorite?
Well, everything in this movie was passionate for me because my training, although I'm not trained in haute couture, the woman that I learned fashion from was a couturier. She was one of the designers at Molyneux in the 1940s, so a lot of the training, even though I'm a ready-to-wear collection that I have, was in couture, and she reminded me, she was an old Czechoslovakian woman, I think she was 75 when I went to school, and we would watch her work, and there's something with those artisans with the way they use their hands, and it's interesting because I was reading a paper today from somebody that did a thesis on slow fashion, and they interviewed a couturier out of London, and they said it's not even something that you can teach people through something that's written. You have to see these people work, because the way they touch fabric and move their hands is very unique to that industry. So yeah, it's amazing to watch that.
Thank you. Can you let us know a bit, I want to ask you a question about the movie. Why that subject? Why it came to your mind to talk about artisan work?
I was directing a small TV show that was called Let Me Go Through. I Work in the Fashion Business, and it was more like a fun way to show all the jobs related to fashion that weren't obvious to the public. And quickly I entered those workshops, and I became friends with these people because they're so special and so great. And like Eric, the feather artist, yes, is one of my good friends now, and Monsieur Lugnon, obviously, I'm still in touch with. So I just met them through doing that TV show, and I did a little subject of 6 minutes that was aired on the French television, and then I stayed in contact with them, and I was visiting them a lot, and I just thought we have to do something more about these people because. Yes. I don't know, I really like them, so yeah.
No, it is very touching, like I was saying, to see them work. For me, it was like candy. I was like, wow, I want some more, and we forget the work. One of the reasons we are having that panel, I've been here in Vancouver promoting a lot of sustainable fashion through our event, Eco Fashion Week, of course. One of the ways to be more responsible and more eco is to buy quality clothes that you will keep for a long time and that you will not throw away after wearing it one time. So the question we have, is there a place for that to grow again? Because yes, it's disappearing and big companies are buying it, but for me, I hope it inspires some people to start doing that again. I don't know for you, but...
Well, you know what our 10-year collection is inspired by. We've sort of seen, and when she can speak to this too, over the many years we've had our company, we sort of tried to get into that manufacturing game for a while, and we're being gobbled up by big box companies, and even we're a luxury brand, so at the luxury end we're finding it difficult to even compete. So we're focusing really more on our couture customers right now that come for quality handmade things where we can spend time, and they're not afraid to spend a little bit of money. I mean, we're certainly not working at that level, but we have a dress we're doing for our 10-year show right now that has 4,000 Swarovski crystals on it that we spent 3 or 4 days working on. There's pieces that we can spend up to 2 weeks on, but it's difficult to find a market for that now. the price point is high, so it's just hard to find a customer for it. So I fear, while I watched that was very moving and sad for me to watch, because what I fear is that with mass consumerism and where we're going and everything moving faster and people have this voracious appetite to get it quickly, that industry is going to slowly get gobbled up. I fear that. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely as a designer, the thing that you come across more and more is people really don't appreciate the work that goes into things, and the fact that, one of the greatest things I get talked about often is the cost of my product and comparing with luxury brands. And it's like, well, I am luxury because everything is handmade. But it's that kind of expectation that it will be lower prices because it's seen as craft. And so people almost expect that to reduce the cost of the product. Then it comes to that kind of like, well, the time that's going into it comes back to that, the time and the quality of the materials. You cannot create that for the lower budget market. It just isn't possible.
I like that you said craft, and Julie, I have a question for you regarding that. Do you think the definition of artisan and craft in France is different than in North America? Because when we see it, it's a noble career to do that in France.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's pretty much the same. But it's interesting that you say that, because there was at some point when we show the hats, there's a hat maker, and she was actually explaining me that the hardest part for her, she has a small store making custom-made hats, and her hats are really, pretty expensive because it takes her a lot of time to do them. And she was telling me that the hardest part for her with her clients was to explain the price. It was always so hard for her to explain that it was such a high price because it took so long to make. And people were always trying to, make the price lower, and it is a problem. But no, I don't know. I think in France, it's pretty much, artisans are just people who work with their hands. I mean, in a way, it is a problem because in front of the government, I'm saying, like in terms of help that goes to the artisans, someone like a plumber is an artisan in France. A plumber or a painter that will paint, buildings is an artisan, just like Monsieur L'Oignon. So it's hard for them to, separate. And
it's not art. It's not just.
No, it's not.
Art.
It's not. It's not art. And there's how do you say? Well, not a company, but an organization that is trying now to declare what artisans make as a work of art, so that it would have the same status. It would be protected just like a work of art is, but it's really hard for them to do that. It's really hard for them to have the government and the law voted, basically.
Yeah, I agree. Here, do you have some help from government and stuff? It's all no one. No. Same reaction. Starts smiling. Cool. Is there any question? Because we only have 15. Yes? Yes, Ashley?
It's for Jason. I know you have a couple of collections. Oh, thanks. I know you have a couple of different lines and collections. Do you ever feel like buyers in the whole wholesaling world is ever threatened by your one-on-one business, your custom-made business?
Well, this is why we sort of pulled back our ready-to-wear line. That is our more couture, custom-made collection. That's the one that I feel the most passionately about. So no, we don't really sell our product at that price point in the market. And to be honest, the struggle we have with the lines that we sell to our retailers, and the struggle that Wenchi and my team have in our studio, is that we're trying to get a dress out that's beautifully made with design and quality fabrics at $300. And it's really hard to do, and we end up banging our head against the wall because we either end up absorbing a lot of time in our cost and our interns to be able to deliver something decent to the market, or we just don't bother doing it at all. So I mean, it's just I find that it's becoming increasingly more difficult to do what we're doing. And we have supplementary incomes now for the first time this year ever, and it's been a sense of relief because the pressure to do that thing, I don't feel anymore. We call our studio an atelier. Her title is chef d'atelier. We want to make handmade, slow fashion, and now we're sort of getting into a position where we can pick and choose our products that we want to make and our clients we want to work with. I've never been happier. So I'm feeling less and less of that pressure. We'll still service our boutiques, and we're just giving a completely different market that doesn't create a conflict for them.
Thank you. More questions in the back?
Trudy, sometimes the gifts that an artist has are not business and being organized. So usually it's a partnership that works well. Maybe one example would be Pierre Berger and Yves Saint Laurent, where they worked well together, right? So with the Ray family, was she more the business person, or so is that why
Yes.
they're still around? And what about the others? Were they more craftsmen or artisans and maybe not so good at the business side?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, for Monsieur and Madame Rey, yes, she doesn't do any, any forms or anything. He's really the artist, and she takes care of the bills and getting the clients, communicating also with the clients and everything. So yeah, it's definitely in their, they work really well together. And for Monsieur Legeron and Monsieur Lognon, they do everything basically. Yeah.
No, I was wondering if, like, you thought that maybe the ones that aren't around anymore, they were less good at the business side, or they didn't have a team, they didn't have like a person with the opposite skills,
I think it's a mixture of things. Maybe that was one of the reasons, but definitely not the only one. I think that a lot of them disappeared because there was less work, because there was when there is work, usually it all comes at once, and when you have only 2 people working in the atelier, then it's hard to answer all the orders. And so you have to say no, because you can't hire, because you know that if you hire, then you have to stay with these people, and after 2 weeks, then you're not going to have the work anymore, so you're going to end up, going bankrupt. So there's a lot of problems involved that made all these artisans disappear. And I think also it's just the way the world is going to. I think it's the evolution of the world. I mean, everything has to go faster. People are very impatient now. Look at when you don't have Wi-Fi, you're like, oh my God, why isn't this working? And it's getting faster and faster. So I think it's also one of the reasons why they disappeared, because it wasn't going fast enough. So and also other ways appeared to basically do the same thing, not as well, but do it and kind of do the trick. And it was cheaper and it was faster. So of course, a lot of people chose that, and that was the end of the other people.
There's a question in the front.
You talked about the government, the French government. You asked one of the questions, like, do you think the French government would ever help you in any way or subsidize you or support the artisans in France? But has the French government actually ever been approached about supporting their artisans, or
Yeah, there's a lot of
Pressure?
associations, and but it's true that it is a complicated area to help out, because the artisans, they're in their workshop, and they're always working, and they're not really the ones that are going to go out and ask for help. They don't. Sometimes there's a help that would be perfect for them and that is available, but they don't even know about it, because their nose is in their work. So it's hard. And also part of them are in one association, another part is in another one, and they feel like, oh, he's an artisan, but he's been working only for 5 years, and I've been in the artisan business for 20 years, so he can't have the same rights as I am. So sometimes they even shoot in each other's legs. I don't know if you can say that, but it's complicated. I know it's complicated, and I know that's they've tried, but not enough, I think.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking when you hear that they're not going to be able to hand down their business.
Yeah,
It
it
was
is.
sad moment.
That's so sad
emotional,
for me.
no?
Yeah.
I think there's the similar problem here as well. There's a lot of help we don't know of, but when you learn about it, the process to get there, it's so much work, and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna
that's
figure
true.
it out.
It's the same
they
in
don't
France.
make it easy. They don't make it easy. They don't want to give you the money. At the
The,
end of the
paper,
day.
the paperwork in France is incredible. I mean,
It never ends, and this
and it
and
takes
that.
so long.
Yeah, it's so long. So we give up, and on an event standpoint. There was a question here. Yeah.
I have a question about succession, actually. You know, a lot of them, it was a point of pride that, that the artistry had been passed down from generation to generation. And I wondered if it was still a source of pride to have French artistry made by French people, or whether they would consider, if possible, looking for successors in other parts of the world.
No, I'm sure that if some apprenti, would come along, if it doesn't really matter where he comes from, if he has the passion, I don't think it would make a difference for them, really. Yeah.
I wanted to say thank you for making this film. I cannot afford couture, but I appreciate it, especially now, because I find when we buy the big box stuff, yes, it's cheap, but it doesn't last. And I'm wondering if this is going to have the same effect as food. Because look at now the slow cooking movement has come, finally, where people are realizing this is junk we're putting in. Or it's the same thing as putting something on. If it doesn't make you feel good, because it's so generic.
So that we could close
So,
with that question. What is the
I think-
future hopes?
I can tell you what the future is for me. We've had many opportunities throughout our career to just cut corners and go to the lower margin and jump into that game. And I've said for years, owning my business, and I still maintain, feeling is more important to me than money. And part of the problem is that I'm sure to the detriment of a lot of the people that work with me, that I'm not interested in making those quick, fast push out into the market. I don't get any joy out of that. And it's so amazing to watch them work, because we go on about this all the time. We were looking at a sleeve in the jacket today, just before 20 minutes before we came, and when she was making a comment on the way, we like the way a sleeve properly set in hangs in a garment, and when you put infrastructure and time, and we feel rushed on a daily basis in what we do. So moving to this next collection, which we want to present, we feel so proud because we feel for the first time in 10 years, we authentically made something that not only aesthetically says that we wanted to say, but really took our time to finish it the way we want it done. I mean, like I say, I learned from Helen Lefaux, and she was wanting to pass more of the couture techniques that she knew down to me. I was young and foolish and busy trying to start my own business, and we were going to work together to develop a book. But again, couture is something you really need to do hands-on and needs to be passed down and trained. So I don't know whether or not we'll move to a slow type of fashion. I feel like it's going the other way, that things are moving faster and people just want they want it cheap and they want it to look good, and I don't think that they care so much about the quality, sadly.
You never know. I think this
Yeah.
is started.
I think it's difficult because it's a really hard decision to make in terms of food or in terms of clothes. If you want to choose that, it's difficult for so many reasons, because there's so much commercial and so much, the message that is sent out in the world is that everyone can get everything, and everything is available. And it's the same thing with food. I mean, the problem with food now is that before fish and good meat, it was only for people who could afford it, and now everybody. And in a way, that's justice. Everybody should be able to eat meat. And now people, would like to wear couture. They can't, but they can go to H&M and Zara and have the copy that will look good for 2 weeks before you wash it. Until you wash it. So it's hard, because the message that is sent out is that you're entitled to that. So if you want to choose something else, you're basically going against so much. So I think it's hard, and if the message changes, then yeah, why not? But right now, it's not changing at all. It's definitely even more pounding, people's head, like,
You
buy more.
Yeah, buy more all the time.
You need more. Buy more.
I think I was just going to say, I mean, again, it's not, I mean, every product I make, I hand make everything. Like from the putting it on the form to, finishing the ribbon work, I do all of it by hand. But it's not just that. I know where my materials come from. I know my block makers. I know, where in the world all my fabrics come from. And I'm very careful about where I choose those things, because I think about the people at the end of the line. And when you're going into these bigger box stores and, we grab these things off the rack, where are those fabrics coming from? Not just where is it made. You know, you can look at the label and go, oh, well, I can justify that because it's, you know, wherever it's made. But then the fabric, where did that come from? And when you're looking at a $30 dress or less than, and, you know, I've done it. I bought my daughter a dress the other day. It was $5. And I got home and I went, I wonder what kid made the dress for my kid. And it's not just because that dress is $5, the fabric that made it too. Like all those things that go into it. If you are buying from somebody who is thinking about their product, they're also thinking more likely about where the materials are coming from. And I think that that is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
Comment to that too.
Do we have
I
time
mean,
for- yeah, one last.
do we have 1 second?
You close.
Oh, you go ahead. I like what you said, and I agree with what Julie was saying. And I think that what's ended up happening is that the couture-looking garments are available at lower levels, but I think beyond the business aspect, I think we're living in a time where people don't really appreciate the quality anymore. They want the look, and they're going to dispose of it quickly because the fashion industry is moving so quickly. They're going to move into the next look, and it's about getting it faster, get your Instagram picture. And I think there was a time when people who bought couture really loved the quality in those clothes, and they wanted that beautiful finishing. And I just don't know that people even recognize it anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Well, before I close,
A really quick question.
go.
Really quick. Are you doing a DVD release?
That we would have to ask the producer, but yes, certainly.
Perfect. Yeah.
That would be
Well,
great.
For me, I like when I see all of you here, coming first to the movie and seeing after, even if it was very brief, gives me lots of hope. Slow food is working. I believe slow fashion. Not that everybody will do slow fashion, but why not integrating it in our life more often? You know, and I'm an optimist. And we're in Vancouver. We want to be there. We're, I think, more in contact. But with what you're doing, Jason. We met 4 years ago, and what happens now? It's 4 or 3 years, and what happens now with your collection? It's crazy. You know that you went that way because it meant something to you.
I think just to really quickly, I think that because we're learning more and more about how these clothes that are very cheap are made, and sometimes it's quite shocking. I think that it's maybe if there's a change, it's going to come from there. People are going to be taking the decision, saying, "No, I don't want to buy this because I know how it's made, and I don't want to support this. So I'm going to try to buy something different." So maybe that's. I think.
But this is doing an amazing job, even if it's not just showing the shocking aspect, but showing the beauty and the passion behind. That's motivating as well to buy quality. There's
also something that the artisans say is that when somebody makes something, putting his heart into it, then there's what we say in French, le supplément d'âme.
Le supplément d'âme.
Yeah, and how could we translate
Soul
that?
supplement.
Yeah,
yeah.
That
Soul
just
supplement.
makes it, you know, more beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.